This is the Ark of the Covenant, three that bear witness. In our last episode, I left you in the home of a gentleman in northern Minnesota. I had just heard the story from this gentleman that was sent to give me a message from the Almighty. He had driven 10 hours from Illinois up to meet with me. I had never met him before, I'd heard about him, and he first started out by telling me the story that I'd heard bits and pieces of, in which he was awakened in the middle of the night. He was told to fly to Vietnam, and then once he got there, after a couple of weeks, he was instructed where to find 70 women and children and get them out of the country to America. He was able to do this through a miraculous series of events, got them back to America, and now, years later, he is sent up to give me the message, you need to go see Henry Gruver. He then also told me that a friend of his was going to be going to Vietnam. And I said, I've got a gift for him. Reached into my pocket before I pulled it out. He said, wait, let me call him. It turned out that this gentleman had been up north at one of his customers' place that morning, was backing out of the long driveway when he was flagged down, and then he ran out to him, and he said to him, you need to go see Michael Rood as soon as possible. He said, who is Michael Rood and how do I find him? He said, don't worry, you'll find him. He goes back, drives back to his office, puts the key in the door while the phone is ringing. He picks up the phone, and that is when Victor is on the phone and says, I need you to come over here and meet someone. And I could hear on this end of the phone, is he a vet? And yes, he's a vet. And he said he was a Marine. And he said, I'll be right there. He comes into the door opens, in walks John Hanna. Victor introduces me, this is Michael Rood. And he then tells me the story of what had just transpired in the previous hour. He then tells me the story of how he was two men who were left of his entire battalion that was cut down in Vietnam. He was then nursed back to health in one of the tunnels until he was strong enough to get back to the Americans. And now he said, I know that I have to go back to Vietnam, and I have got to speak to this family. I've got to bring the gospel of the kingdom to this family in Vietnam. And then I pulled out from my pocket a 100 dong Vietnamese note, and I handed it to him, and he said, that was a sign that I was waiting for. I was given that 100 dong Vietnamese note 2 days earlier after I finished teaching. The Almighty is working all these things together at this point, and now I know that this man is on his way to Vietnam, and I know that this message is from the Almighty that I must go down and see Henry Gruver. I don't know Henry Gruver, but we make our plans to go down to see Henry Gruver. It turns out that I'm the only one, after much discussion about getting a whole busload of people and making the journey down there, I'm the only one that goes down. I am in a borrowed Toyota pickup truck. I drive down the 10 hours to get there. I get there just in time. I have a recording unit that is with me, and there's one seat left in the television studio where this is going to transpire over the next 2 days. One seat left, and it is right the front seat in front of Henry Gruver. I couldn't ask for anything better. I asked him if he opposed me recording it, because I had a high quality cassette recorder, and so I recorded that as Henry then laid out his life and his vision. Now, what transpired during that teaching that night and the next 2 days was something that was going to profoundly change my life. As I sat there in front of Henry, he told me that he had traveled to nearly every continent on the planet, and his job was to walk every street of these communities and to pray. And while he did that, while he prayed in this prayer walking that he did literally for decades, he would be given specific revelation about that community and what he was supposed to be praying about. After giving us a lot of background so that I knew that this is a man of God. This is a man who walked by the Spirit, and the proof was there in his life and in his ministry. Then he took us to Jerusalem when he prayer walked Jerusalem. He gave the detail of what during that time was the seam, which is a demilitarized zone between the two parts of Jerusalem, East Jerusalem and the free part of Jerusalem. And then he told about going to a hotel where he was staying. At the end of his stay there, a man walked into the hotel, and he said that he never stays there, but he was speaking in the hotel. He heard another American speaking English there, and so the two of them met. And Henry Gruver said the man told him that he was in northern Turkey, in the mountains of Urartu, where they were doing some subsurface interface radar equipment, using it on what they believed to be the remains of Noah's Ark in northern Turkey. And he said, when I was there, he said, the Lord told me to get to Jerusalem, to go to this hotel, because there was a man there he needed to tell about the Ark of the Covenant. Rabbi Shlomo Goren, the chief rabbi of Israel, before his death, revealed that the Ark of the Covenant was never lost. It was deliberately hidden. It was hidden in Mount Moriah, which the Temple Mount is part of Mount Moriah. The highest peak of Mount Moriah is north of the city gate of Jerusalem. The very highest peak of it today is now an Arab graveyard in East Jerusalem. Rabbi Shlomo Goren said the Ark of the Covenant was not lost. It was deliberately hidden in Mount Moriah. He said, I have been in the chamber. I have seen the Ark. Now, we know the time frame that he was there. It was the same time frame where the Ark was reportedly having been found, but they knew they couldn't get the Ark of the Covenant from where it was out into the hands of Israel through the way it was found through this archaeological dig. But they had to find the original route in, and for 7 years they attempted to get to the Ark of the Covenant, to remove it from where it is in East Jerusalem, under the ground of East Jerusalem, and to get it into the hands of Israel safely and securely. Henry was taken to this site by Ron Wyatt. He was given the background on this. And then Henry came to the United States and told us what happened. He was invited, very strangely, to speak to a group of Orthodox Jews in New York City. And they asked him to speak on the Ark of the Covenant and what he knew about the Ark of the Covenant. In this room full of Orthodox Jews, black hats, peyotes, black coats, Orthodox Jews. He then told the story of how, what he knew about the Ark of the Covenant and the detail on the Ark and what Henry saw when Ron Wyatt took him to that place. Because Ron Wyatt said, the Lord told me to go to this place in Jerusalem at this hotel because there's someone that he needed to tell about the Ark of the Covenant. Because there were many things that could not be said, but Ron Wyatt was told, and Henry Gruver was the man. Henry Gruver then related how he was speaking to this room full of Orthodox Jews, and then, as he was closing, a rabbi came forward and he said, I am sworn to secrecy. I cannot say anything about the Ark of the Covenant. And but what this man just declared to you is true. And then he laid out a series of photographs on the table from the archaeological dig, not of the room where the Ark of the Covenant is, but other things, and he said that what Henry Gruver was saying was true. He had been in the chamber, and he too had seen the Ark of the Covenant. That is why Henry Gruver was invited to speak to this group of Orthodox Jews, because he couldn't say, but he knew that the people needed to know. Because that Ark of the Covenant and the testimony that is buried in the earth is exactly what John spoke about. John, in the Gospel of John, when it comes to the time of the crucifixion, he being the only male disciple that was there on the site, when he saw the earthquake and the rocks rend, in other words, an earthquake, the ground splits open, and then a Roman soldier comes up and plunges a spear into the side of Yeshua. He rips his side open and outpours blood and water from his side. And for the first time in 20 chapters, John stops the entire narration and said, I, John, saw it. I saw this. What did he see? I saw this. He is the one that declares that Yeshua is the Son of God, and I saw this, and I know that Yeshua is the Son of God, the Son of the Most High. He is the Messiah. What did John see? In 1 John, we read that there are three that bear record in the earth: the Spirit, the water, and the blood. And these three agree. If we have received the witness of men, and that's how you and I saw and believed in the Messiah, the witness that God gave of his Son is greater than the witness of men. And this is the witness God gave of his Son. And this, what? What is this? The three that bear witness, that bear record, the testimony that is buried in the earth: the Spirit, the water, and the blood. And what happened at the crucifixion and where the Ark of the Covenant was hidden. I sit back in my chair and I am floored. This is 6 months after I first saw Ron Wyatt's testimony, and I wouldn't show it to anyone else. I couldn't believe it. It was too big. The testimony was too big. I had to have another witness. I had to hear more about this. I couldn't just take it from this video. Oh, I'd show people the video of Noah's Ark. I'd show them about Sodom and Gomorrah. I'd show them about the Red Sea crossing, and I'd shut the thing off. I just couldn't go there. And now Henry Gruver is laying this thing out of what he saw when the Spirit told Wyatt to go and tell him the testimony. Henry Gruver is telling the story and now of what he heard when he was invited to speak to a group of Orthodox Jews, and the one who invited him, he came forward and said, I am sworn to secrecy. But what this man is telling you is true. I have been in the chamber. I have seen the Ark of the Covenant. Obviously, when Shlomo Goren went into that chamber, there was more than one person that went in with him at that point. The following day, Henry Gruver shared about the other vision that he had concerning the rebirth of Judah and what is going to be transpiring at the end of a war, an existential war, in which Israel will be brought to the brink of destruction. If not for the hand of the Almighty, there would be no Israel. But out of that will come a revival, awakening, and the blindness in part that's happened to Israel is going to be removed. This is what Shaul prophesied. Paul prophesied of this very thing. Then blindness in part has happened to Israel, and it's actually been, in a way, a benefit to the Gentiles. But that blindness in part is going to be removed, and when it is removed, it's going to be like life from the dead. It's going to be a new day and a new age. Just as Chaim Goldman was sharing about the upper room conspiracy a little bit earlier. Christians told him that the Last Supper was the Passover. He got all excited about this. As he said, he's in production. He went out and produced tracts and started handing them out in the street, but yet he's a storyteller. He's an editor. He's a television and movie man. He read the rest of the script and said, wait, the Last Supper is not Passover. You read one verse and you could make it out, but you read the whole script and it's impossible. Any Jew can see that it's not, the Last Supper is not Passover. He said, you got to quit listening to Gentiles interpret scriptures Jews have written, Chaim. And so that's when he heard me tell the story, he knew this is what he was ordained to do in his life. All of his training, everything he did in his whole life. His mother passed away that year. He took his entire inheritance and financed a Rood Awakening to get started. Completely dedicated to make this thing happen. And now he's here to see, as this mushrooms, as Biblical LTV launches off on its own to touch the entire Christian and Messianic world, ladies and gentlemen, the hand of the Almighty is revealing things in this day and time. And the rebirth of Judah, I took that recording and I put it out there by the thousands. I wanted people to hear that testimony and hear the testimony of Henry Gruver. Henry had already plans for this weekend for Shavuot, was not able to be with us. But we have 2 more major feasts this year. And hopefully we will have not only Henry Gruver here, but also we're going to see if we can get a gentleman that was actually down in there with the film crew, in the excavation site with the film crew, and caused a cave-in that site. The man who then got that video back to the United States of America, put it in his top right-hand drawer, and then all hell broke loose, and the big television studio that he built down called Heritage USA, he was taken away from, and he was in prison, and the videotape ended up missing concerning him being down in the Ark of the Covenant dig with Ron Wyatt. We'll see. We'll see if we can get Jim Baker in to tell the part of the story that he knows. And also Mark White, Shomer Levan, who was sent from the Shomron with a revelation, a vision. Don't take any money. You and Yohanan, this 80-year-old man, walk to Jerusalem, the 18 hours, and to go to a cave at the foot of the highest peak of Mount Moriah to go there to pray. I'm going to be able to tell you a little bit about his story, but ladies and gentlemen, there's more than 3 witnesses. It's not even up to the witness of Ron Wyatt at this point, just as the Red Sea crossing. Dr. Moeller, Karolinska Institute, a scientist with a laboratory that awards the Nobel Prize in Science, taking underwater robotic dive cameras and the most modern research equipment and literally drives the cameras among the coral-encrusted remains of Pharaoh's army strewn for 1.5 miles under 900 feet of water in the bottom of the Red Sea. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not even up to Ron Wyatt's testimony and little 8mm films and old VHS tapes that have been copied 1,000 times over. It's not up to that anymore. Mount Sinai, it's not up to Ron Wyatt's testimony. Jim and Penny Caldwell were sent there. American oil field engineer Jim Caldwell, and his base was what? The Midian oil field. And was able to get tens of thousands of artifacts from the real Mount Sinai out to the Western world, as well as high-definition photographs. All these things, ladies and gentlemen, the rocks are crying out. And I believe they have to cry out because the people of the Almighty have shut their mouth. They are afraid to speak up. They've had evolution shoved down their throats. They are made out to be fools if they believe that the Creator created the heavens and the earth. I say the morons that teach Darwin's theory of evolution, which is so disproven by science, you've got to be a complete moron to even go there. I am tired of all this hockey foddy out there. Take Darwin, dig him up from the genius corner, and bury him in the morons corner of Westminster Cathedral. He's dead wrong. And all those who keep on hyping his stuff, all the scientists that follow him, all they do is mouth their stuff, but they produce nothing. All the genius inventions on planet Earth were done by scientists who were believers. These dimwits haven't done a thing. Nothing except create the things to enslave mankind. To bring us all into the Novus Ordo Seclorum, the New World Order. To destroy America, which foundation is God-given rights and responsibilities. Now, if there's no God, there's no God-given rights. There's only government-given rights, and we have found out that what the government giveth, the government taketh away. They make laws that they refuse to follow themselves, and no one can hold them accountable because they're paid whores. Congress and the Senate and the entire executive staff and now the judicial staff, nothing but whores, absolute whores. Now, after these introductory comments, the next day, Henry and Judith were then invited. He was speaking at a church. He asked me if I would like to go along. I got there, and I was sitting with Judith as Henry was sharing, and he was going to share about the time he went to heaven. And I thought, oh no, not another one of these. I've heard 100 stories about people going to heaven. Every one of them looks different. Everything's different. It's like, how many heavens are there? Is there a dog heaven, a kitty heaven, a cow heaven? I mean, how many heavens are there? I hear all these stories, and but I can relate in one way, is that the Almighty communicates to us in the visions, the pictures, and in our understanding. And so you get these different pictures because these are visions, these are revelations to the individual. And then they're usually given an assignment, now, go back there and do something. But what I never hear the revelation, but they seem to be doing, is they come back and now they go on speaking tours to tell us what heaven looks like. Wait, that wasn't the assignment, you idiot! Call this person back up, and if they don't do it, keep them. Now other people go to hell. Hell looks different. Somebody saw this cassette on my credenza in Israel. They came in. It said 10 minutes in hell. They said, "What's this all about?" I said, "Someone asked me to sing a couple of my favorite numbers." It's really about a person giving their vision of what it was like in hell. But when Henry said what happened to him, when his van rolled over and he was dead, the ambulances were there. He was dead. No life signs at all. For several minutes he was dead. And the story he told will stay with me the rest of my life. I sat there and I wept like a baby. I was just, at first I was embarrassed. I mean, I'm sitting there in a church and I'm just weeping. And then I figured, these people don't know me. They'll never see me again. Just sit there and cry. What difference does it make? So I sat there sobbing like a baby because it was so real. And what was communicated was so absolutely important in my life. At the end of this time with Henry, I go back up north and I know I have to go see Ron Wyatt.